Good morning, viewers. It's Rob Atfield reporting for Port Carling Boats. We're here in Huntsville, Ontario, this April the 8th day, 2016, and I'm reporting on the continuing progress with this 1963 18-foot Thompson runabout. This boat and trailer was purchased for a rock-bottom price 2 years ago in Michigan, $1,500, and it has required extensive restoration since, including 13 new ribs, a new keel, and lots of other work. So the restoration continues. Funds invested so far amount to probably somewhere between $8,000 and $9,000. A local mechanic has kindly upgraded the original outdrive on this boat, which didn't lift. And because of that, and the additional mechanical components required, the original engine box doesn't fit anymore, so I'm in the process of slightly enlarging the engine box, which will be reupholstered professionally. I also do want to strip the paint from the decking and sideboards here. I'm sure the previous owner did that to save time and money on having to care for a varnish finish, but to do this boat justice, it really should be refinished. Luckily, he didn't paint the cabinetry behind the seats. I have removed the carpeting from the boat. It was originally carpeted entirely inside, floor and walls, and one humongous piece of indoor-outdoor carpeting, which of course isn't great for a wooden boat. I've ripped the carpeting out, and I have varnished the planking and the ribs. There's a pretty ugly section here just below the top board, which I have to figure out what to do with. I think I might line that top with cedar because it wouldn't stain and varnish very well. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what material they've even used on that upper plank, but you can see the ugly black stains where the stapled and glued carpeting has been removed. So we'll cover that up and try and make the boat look a little more professionally finished. The immediate job I have this morning here, and probably for the next while, is to take this tired-looking outdrive and sand it and file it as best I can and smooth it, and then apply a special primer. I guess it's a zinc oxide primer that will bond properly with the metal, and then we'll paint that and try and make it look new again. For anyone who's interested, I'll try and keep you informed of the progress, but we're certainly looking forward to getting out in the water with a boat this summer, and hopefully we can do much of this restoration work before it's time to launch. Over and out. Good morning, viewers. It's Rob Atfield reporting for Port Carling Boats. It's April 2016, and we're in a shop here, a warehouse in Huntsville, Ontario, where the continuing saga of my own personal restoration project is underway. This is a 1963 Thompson runabout that required extensive wood repairs, which have now been done. So I'm working on what might consider to be the finer points of the boat now. An upgraded outdrive was added, but it wasn't a new upgrade, and the outdrive was somewhat pitted and scarred from years of use. So to spruce it up, I've put on 2 coats of a self-etching primer. I'm going to just show you that can, if you can see it. It's by Proform, and it seems to have done quite a nice job of bonding to the aluminum outdrive. It doesn't cover all the nicks and scratches, but it certainly cleans it up. Following that, I've put on 2 coats of an acrylic enamel, a black acrylic enamel, with 1 more coat to go. So it's certainly cleaned up the look of the outdrive. It's not perfect, but it's 90% better than it was before. We'll just see how durable this turns out to be. Apparently, if you need to apply this enamel within 10 minutes, 2 coats within 10 minutes of each other, 2 thin coats, followed by a 3rd medium coat, which I'll apply about a week from now. The other thing that's going on with this boat is the stripping of the decks. The previous owner had painted the decks brown. I guess I can understand that if you're living in a high sun-exposed area and don't have access to a boathouse. Nonetheless, for a purist, it's a travesty to paint a beautiful wooden boat rather than varnish it. So I'm using a chemical stripper here called Super Remover. Seems to be doing quite a good job. I know the antique and classic boat magazines advertise frequently something called Star Stripper. And the ad shows someone stripping a boat in a matter of hours from stem to stern. I'm not sure how realistic that is. This is certainly going to be a lot of TLC to get all the varnish off and then to restain the deck. But that's life in wooden boating. If you've got the time and are retired or semi-retired as I am, you've got a bit more time to work on this kind of a project. So I'll keep you in touch for anybody who's interested and let you know how it turns out. Over and out. Hello viewers, Rob Atfield reporting for Port Carling Boats. It's April the 19th, 2016. I'm here in a shop in Huntsville, Ontario, working on my own project, an 18-foot Thompson runabout, 1963. I've just spent about 60 hours, I guess, over the last 8 days stripping the deck and covering boards of this boat and the windshield. Big job. It had been not only varnished, but painted on top of the varnish. I guess the previous owner thought that would be easier on the maintenance. In any case, I'm down to bare wood here, and at this point I have, in an attempt to equalize the color, I have used a commercial wood bleach, a two-part system, and I applied that yesterday. It didn't completely whiten the mahogany ply deck, but I think it certainly lightened it to some extent, and it has reduced some of the color irregularities. I've just finished a light sand with 160 grit paper, and I'm going to have to neutralize now, apparently, with a solution of 1 part white vinegar to 2 parts warm water. So once again, after that has neutralized the wood, I'll have to do a light sanding again, and then I hope to be ready for some stain. Thank goodness. Anyway, for any of you that are doing your own projects, I don't know if that's useful information or not in terms of the bleach. I hope it might be in some cases. And I must admit I have sinned. I used an orbital sander after the initial stripping process, just because to sand with the grain by hand just seemed too onerous a task. I'm going to find out whether I'm going to be in trouble after I've got a stain on, but I have applied a fair bit of pressure with my 160 grit sandpaper so that I hope any sideways marks on the grain produced by the earlier orbital sander will have disappeared by now. Anyway, progress to date. Over and out. Morning viewers, Rob Atfield reporting for Port Carling Boats. It's April 21st, I think, today, and this is my own project, 1963 Thompson. I've just spent about 60 hours scraping and sanding the deck off, which was varnished and then painted over top. Took it down to bare wood and have put on a coat of red oak Minwax stain. I'm about to do a thinned coat of varnish. I'm using an Interlux product, and they recommend thinning it by 10% for the first coat for a better penetration, but I have a feeling I might thin it even a bit more than that. I'm generally pleased with the boat. It's a bit darker than I'd anticipated. It's strange, when I did the mahogany transom, it turned out a medium brown, but for some reason the deck planking, the mahogany planking, came out what seems to be significantly darker. And even the deck here seems to be somewhat darker than the transom, but I won't know for sure until I'm done. Anyway, that's it for now. Over and out. Hello viewers, Rob Atfield reporting for Port Carling Boats. It's April the 22nd or 3rd today, and I'm on coat number 3 of varnish for my Thompson 1963 runabout. It's actually starting to look like a boat again. I have found the process a bit stressful. Varnish certainly isn't as forgiving as stain. I've been using a roll and tip method, where I use a roller to apply the varnish and then tip it with a foam brush. And I'm putting enough varnish on so that I hope that it will the superfluous, if you want to call it that, varnish will seep into the uneven crease marks left by the foam brush. I know there may be mixed feelings on this. I personally find a medium to a heavier coat of varnish more to my liking. I could be dead wrong, but I'm concerned that if I just put too thin a coat on, then the brush marks or the little imperfections won't level out. Anyway, that's today's theory. We'll see how this project ends up. And I have been doing a very light wet sanding between coats. Anyway, for any of you do-it-yourselfers, take those comments however you wish. Over and out. Bye for now.